I'm desperately trying so hard to not make my first words of this be so, because so many times throughout our run on this podcast, I would always start the cold open with so, and it drives me up a fucking wall. So let's just jump right into it. Os, Tatsukai, Lendon! Welcome back to Let the Horses Cook, the most cooked My Little Pony recap podcast. I'm Sourbrite, Bit Talk food influencer extraordinaire, and I'm joined by my lovely au natural co-host, WillowDendro.
Hello, mares, stallions, and non-bridles. You may call me Gigi, caretaker of plants, tamer of little creatures.
That's what I said. Au natural. You take care of plants.
Oh, I don't speak Spanish.
Fair enough. But yeah, it feels so good to be back, you know? We were in the mines with the Fleetway comics for so long. It felt like it would never end. But now we're finally here. We're finally starting the IDW comics. How are you feeling about that?
Excited, but also a bit hesitant. So I did read some of these years ago and ended up not liking them that much.
That's fair. I never really heard much about them being good. I kind of only really heard they were not great, but I guess I kind of really mostly just heard it from you that they weren't all that great. I watched a bit of, Linkara review some of the later issues that we'll be covering in future episodes, but those were later issues, and he was also not a My Little Pony fan, you know?
Yeah.
But we are, and so we're here, we're queer, and we're gonna be reviewing My Little Pony. For those who are new to this podcast, let's give a little bit of context, for, our credentials to review, horse stories. I'll pass to you first, though. What's your general experience with My Little Pony as a whole?
Well, I watched the entirety of Friendship is Magic, otherwise known as Generation 4, including, movies like Equestria Girls and such. And, yeah, like I mentioned, years ago, I would be reading the IDW comics kind of as they were coming out, but eventually I fell off them because I just kind of stopped being interested. Right.
Yeah, I'm kind of a similar, though different ilk. I was really deep into the My Little Pony fandom back around, was it 2011, 2012? But, as soon as Season 2 wrapped, I kind of just fell off. I never watched Season 3 onwards, and so I never actually, read the comics or watched the rest of the show. I just kind of was the show's alright. I'm more interested in, the fandom, the fan works and creations. I would listen to, Nightmare Night, Beyond Her Garden, the superior version of Discord by Odyssey Eurobeat. I'm sorry, I don't make the rules, I just write them down.
She's right, though.
And do them by the book I throw around. But yeah, no, I would say that we're both deep into My Little Pony weeds. It's just that you kind of stayed in them, whereas I drifted onto other bigger things like Undertale.
Yeah.
But no, I was deep in them myself. I was on Brohoof, if you remember that. It was a Minecraft My Little Pony roleplay server.
Oh.
Yeah, it was a recreation of Ponyville, Cloudsdale, Cancerlot, and then you could sign up to have build a house. You had to go through a exam in which you would build a demonstration house to show that you can make decent houses in Minecraft, and then once you pass that, you could find a plot of land to assign to be your own. And my dumbass made a underground speakeasy called the Boiler Room in my in my house. Which is especially weird given my character's name was Sketch Artist. I don't know why this, like, aspiring artist would be, like, having an illicit bar in their basement. But yeah. So, we're both well qualified to talk about horses, and so let's just jump right into it. Let's get cooking!
Giddy up!
We're going to be covering the first 8 issues because, unlike the previous comics, which we definitely read, these issues make up arcs, and so these 8 issues make up the first 2 arcs, and so we figured that would just be a nice, neat little introductory debut episode of Let the Horses Cook. And so we begin with our first arc, starting with a cold open. It's a Fluttershy's backyard, where the Cutie Mark Crusaders are attempting to find their talents within the local wildlife. Their antics get cut short when they get mauled by a group of animals with glowing blue eyes. The next day, the main 6 notice that something is up in Ponyville. Everyone, including the Crusaders, seems to be acting mindlessly with glowing blue eyes. Suddenly, the seemingly brainwashed ponies turn hostile, forcing the girls to retreat into the library. Realizing how familiar all of this is, Twilight Sparkle quickly deduces that changelings have invaded Ponyville and replaced all of its inhabitants. She attempts to write a letter to Celestia for help, but is met with a stock form letter informing them that she's busy. The group hatch a plan to mimic the changelings to try and sneak out unnoticed. This works, and the group stumble upon Derpy Hooves. Yes, her name is Derpy Hooves to me. You can tell how old I am in the fandom. Being body snatched and trapped in a pod. Surmising they must be keeping the rest of Ponyville's inhabitants nearby, the group make their way to Town Hall, where a fight breaks out between the main 6 and the changelings. The girls emerge victorious, but their celebration is interrupted by Spike regurgitating a crystal ball from none other than Queen Chrysalis herself, who reveals she's been holding the Cutie Mark Crusaders hostage and gives them a time limit of 3 days to save them. Twilight quickly realizes that this time limit coincides with an up-and-coming, once-in-a-lifetime celestial event that's causing disturbances in the world due to magical amplifications, and the group set off, uneasy with the knowledge that they're clearly walking right into a trap. The group argue with how to handle their journey, but make their way towards a cave system inside the Appalachian Mountains as their first stop. They're quickly accosted by a cave troll who takes a liking to the girls, but Rarity and Pinkie Pie act quickly and distract him with a stone and moss replica of the girls. Chrysalis, who's watching over all of this with a crystal ball, hatches a plan to sow dissent within the group, sending her changelings to cause a cave-in, splitting the party and forcing them to take a detour and eventually reconvene. As they do, the various changelings disguise themselves as the main 6 in order to trick everyone into thinking they're all just annoying and they're all secretly hating each other. And against all odds, this somehow works.
Yeah.
Once the real ponies meet up, they're now at each other's throats, but are interrupted by giant mobster tarantulas and another fight ensues. Things are looking grim for the group until Pinkie Pie enlists the cave troll from before's help in saving the day by taking the tarantula away and adding them to their collection, since the cave troll found them all cute and wanted to keep them in a collection. The group relationship is still strained after the changeling's manipulation, however, and an argument causes the group to split up once more. We're given a brief flashback depicting how Chrysalis rose to power again, following her prior defeat at the hands of the ponies in Season 2. She, ended up in lovey-dovey Smoochy Land, where small animals dote on each other all the time. Chrysalis then proceeded to genocide all of the inhabitants of lovey-dovey Smoochy Land to make her residence there, and reveals to one of her minions that she intends on draining Twilight Sparkle of her magic once the celestial event I mentioned before is at its apex. We then see that the fractured groups of the main 6 are not doing too well, with Twilight and Fluttershy being chased down by Chupacabra, Applejack and Rarity being chased down by pony-eating petunias, and Pinkie Pie and Rainbow Dash being chased down by vampire jackalopes. The 3 groups however, reconvene and escape, apologizing for how they're all acting, and continuing their journey with a newfound confidence. They arrive at the Changeling Castle, maneuvering their way through Yami Yugi's mind dungeon, and finally to Chrysalis herself. The final confrontation begins, with Twilight and Chrysalis arguing over the nature of love. Chrysalis gains the upper hand and traps all of the ponies but Twilight in pods, only for Twilight to make her last stand, blasting a hole in the wall with her magic. Chrysalis gives Twilight an ultimatum, saying that if she becomes her pupil, she'll spare the others. Hesitant, Twilight relents, seeing self-sacrifice as the only good option. Her friends are freed, only to be trapped once again in a magical wall, with Chrysalis revealing that she truly intends to just drain Twilight of all of her love, stating that while she herself won't be harming Twilight's friends, Twilight will once she's become fully brainwashed. Twilight, enraged, declares that Chrysalis is incapable of love and friendship, and blasts her with a beam of magic, empowered from the aforementioned Celestial event reaching its apex. In the epilogue, Celestia arrives to reveal that she had in fact been busy defending Canterlot from a giant cockatrice, and that Spice had... Spice? God damn it. And that Spike had come in to save the day, as he'd been left behind in Ponyville, with a bonus story at the end showing his account of all that had happened. The story ends with the reveal that Chrysalis is in fact alive, just trapped in her castle by a giant animated mascot costume of Pinkie Pie, the punchline to a running joke we skipped over for brevity. What a insane story to start for your first set of comics for your run.
Yeah.
I was kind of just caught off guard that we're going to be like, hey, check out the My Little Pony comics. We're bringing back the villain from season 2. Like, what? I thought you were gonna just, like, ease into it and, you know, like, introduce the characters, maybe get into, like, some lighthearted shenanigans to show off their, like, general, like, interest, hobbies, abilities, and all that, and them work as friends. But no, we're just, like, jumping straight into it. Chrysalis is back, fuckos.
Yeah. Fan favorite villain.
Yeah. I cannot deny that she is my favorite. I thought the story itself was fine. It was, like, kind of interesting. Kind of caught me off guard in a few ways. Like, the fact that Chrysalis just genocides an entire place to take her kingdom back, I was not expecting at all.
Yeah. We never even learn what those critters are called. They're all dead.
Yeah. And she even, like, feasts on them as snacks like fucking Dio and JoJo. It's like, what the hell?
Yeah, we see, like, her bringing one in front of the fillies, and then, like, a black and white, like, blood splatter. But, like... Yeah! When changelings drain love, they don't leave blood splatters. She just slaughtered that thing in front of the kids for fun.
Yeah, I'm just like, what the hell is going on with that, honestly? I was a bit confused, and I haven't watched the show in forever with how the changelings were interacting, like, throughout the story. Like, it sort of it sort of seemed like a zombie story at the very beginning, like a certain other IDW comic, where they're all acting, like, mindless and brainless, but then at the same time, they're all, like, not acting like that, like, a few pages later, and then even, like, in the weird genocide flashback, they're, like, fully capable of talking to their queen.
Yeah,
it seemed a bit inconsistent.
Yeah, it's a bit confused. I'm pretty sure the blue-eyed, brainless zombie ponies, they're not changelings in disguise. They're just, they've just had a lot of their energy drained from them by the changelings. But then I don't know why they... But then, and I guess that includes some brainwashing because, yeah, they turn hostile.
Yeah, like, it just seems weird that they're brainwashing them when the entire gimmick of the changelings is that they can change their appearance, given their name. I don't really know what they're going for with that. Like, why are we brainwashing them, but then also putting some of them in pods and pretending to be like them?
Yeah.
I didn't really understand that, honestly. I did think it was interesting that in the cold open, we just immediately see the title of The Return of Queen Chrysalis before we even know the changelings are a factor. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
I felt like the writing in this story was not really good, honestly. Like, I think the general idea was fine. You know, it's like a standard, like, story with Chrysalis. But it kind of just felt like all the characters were mugging the camera with their one personality trait. Like, Rainbow Dash is, like, way more standoffish and arrogant. Fluttershy is Fluttershy is constantly freaking out. There's, like, one panel where she's, like, incredibly bug-eyed, and it's like, fucking terrifying. Rarity's constantly complaining about getting dirty and all that. And, like, you know, that's, like, their character traits and all, but it kind of felt a bit, I guess, flanderized in this first arc. And it just felt like everyone was just, like, mugging their camera with their one personality trait. And...
don't worry, as we go through the IDW comics, you're gonna have to get used to that.
I see. It also just kept, like, kind of, I guess, breakneck as well. Like, it just moves so quickly. It was to the point where, like, when the fight with the changelings in the first issue wrapped up, it was funny that Rarity herself said, well, that escalated quickly, then ended abruptly. It's like, you can't just mug the camera and say that, yeah, that was paced like a fucking freight train barreling through a city or something. I don't know. Yeah, I think I'm biased because, you know, we've got Queenie over here. I love Chrysalis, you know.
Yeah.
And I think she definitely carried the story for me. I definitely felt like the writing was kind of not that good on this first one. It was just... I mean, I don't want to go into circles. It just kind of felt like a bit too breakneck, and the characters were very caricature.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think the part I hated the most was the plotline in the middle where the changelings turn the main six against each other. Mm-hmm. And, like, no one stops to think, oh yeah, we're going against changelings who can literally mimic us in our voices. Maybe they were behind this.
Yeah, that was the thing. Like, at most in the third issue, because, like, the start of this plan is in the second issue. In the third issue, at most, Rainbow Dash kind of gets a hint of it, but, like, it just gets distracted by being attacked by vampire jackalopes. Yeah, it was just kind of wild to me how they just so all easily fell for it.
Yeah.
And, like, I know it's like a kid's comic. Like, let's not even mince around the bush. That's a new expression I just invented. I hope you like it. It's obviously a kid's thing. They're gonna have to just, like, do, like, dumb conflicts sometimes, and so they can have it get resolved by the end of the issue or end of the episode. But it was just kind of funny to me how, like, they have those inclinations of, like, you know, maybe this might be a trick or whatever, but then at the end of this spider tarantula encounter, they're still at each other's throats, which to me had the kind of darkly comedic implication that the ponies' friendships were, like, razor thin, that they just immediately, like, shattered and turned to arguments, and everyone just fucking hates each other by the end of the issue. It was like, it's not what they were intending on, but it definitely kind of felt that way.
Yeah.
It also definitely felt like, as much as I love Chrysalis, she kind of just had the weight of, the weight and gravitas as a villain, as, early Archie / Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog, Eggman, where he's just more of, like a cartoon, a bumbling fool who manages to kidnap some of the main characters, but is still just a bit of a fucking moron for most of the run. Like, most of the comics, she's just sitting there, like, yelling at children because they're being annoying. After telling them about the murders she committed. There's also, like, the weird fake out where it looks like she was about to kill the Cutie Mark Crusaders, too. Before it gets interrupted by, oh no, she was actually just being annoyed by them again afterwards. It's like, okay. Yeah. There's definitely way more reference humor than I was kind of expecting or hoping. Like, when they're fighting the Cave Troll, and the collection that the Cave Troll has is a Rubik's Cube, and also Optimus fucking Prime.
Yeah.
Which is like, wait, what? Or, like, some of the background ponies, there were the Blues Brothers ponies in, like, the beginning of the story.
Yeah.
Or, Fluttershy quotes fucking Spock at one point when she says the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few, and I did Google that to confirm that was a Spock quote, and if I'm wrong, then blame Google, not me. What's the pony version of Google? Moogle. Don't, sue me, Square Enix. There's cows in Ponylandia. I'm a My Little Pony fan, can't you tell? Or like when they went into what I described in a recap as Yami Yugi's mind dungeon, you know, fucking, is it Escher? Like, you know, like the non-Euclidean staircases. The Escher stairs, and I had to find the door that led to where Chrysalis was, and there was just, you know, a giant dragon, which makes sense, and then one of the fucking antagonists from Indiana Jones for some reason, and then fucking Pennywise from It for some reason. It's like, what is happening here? Like, it kind of reminds me of early Archie comics where you could tell it's written by some, like, grown-ass men who honestly don't give a shit about the IP and are just, like, putting in a bunch of dumb references to make themselves laugh. And I'm not gonna, like, assume the gender identity of the people who wrote this, but it definitely still carried that energy of, you know, we have to write this dumb kids comic, let's just put in some stupid shit to make ourselves laugh. It was wild to me that Twilight, as I wrote in my notes, she basically says, "You're a selfish bitch and you'll never have friends, Parrish." Like, it's kind of wild how she just says that Chrysalis is just incapable of love and friendship, and then blasts her with a friendship beam, and then we have that dumb joke with the mascot costumes come back again. Like, I know she's like a huge evil, like, villain who feeds off of love of people, but like, shouldn't you be trying to maybe try and reform her or something instead of just saying, like, going full Sonic Forces and say, "You're incapable of friendship, die"? I do want to say, I think, especially because we're going through different artists for these arcs, the art in this kind of fucking sucked. It just felt very, to me, crude, and I know it's really hard to draw My Little Pony characters. Like, I did that a lot when I was deep into fandom, and it was incredibly difficult. But it honestly, especially with, like, the weird pacing and the constant mugging of the camera for character traits, it honestly made it feel like a fan comic, because, you know, like, I read, like, a lot of FIM fiction, you know, fan fiction for My Little Pony, and so it kind of just felt like a fan comic, almost, where it's like, oh, it's got all these references, you know, like, they're going to the mountains where the Diamond Dogs were, and then you can see, like, the, like, inscriptions of the Diamond Dogs as, like, background elements and all that. Or, like, how the second issue ended up with a map of, like, where their journey is taking them, because you gotta have, like, all of that lore, and it's not necessarily a bad thing, but, you know, like, the general vibe felt like a fan comic, honestly. Also, I noticed on the map there's just a giant fucking obelisk. I don't know what that was about. Why is there just an obelisk there? Yeah, the art just did not really do it for me. It just kind of felt, like, very crude, and also all the ponies were constantly scowling for some reason.
Yeah, there were some stanky faces.
Yeah, no, it was a bit of messy art all around. It was kind of funny how the climax reminded me a lot of Endgame, to continue the Sonic comparisons, where it's just like Twilight's just fucking pissed and is at Chrysalis's throat.
I did want to point out, the map you mentioned earlier, that's at the very end of issue 2. Surprisingly enough, it could be considered canon with the show, because the, like, big map of Equestria we eventually got does have, like, the Appalachian Mountains south of Ponyville, and then south of that is just simply marked as the Mysterious South. So all of this could be here. Right.
I did, like, the most cursory look of all of, like, the context for this, just because I was curious on it. This did come out around late 2012, early 2013, around that, so, like, right around the time season 2 was going on, and so, like, this definitely very much feels like companion to the show, rather than just, here's a thing that we made because we were contractually obligated to, you know? It's like, that makes sense. That it definitely feels like there could be some, like, continued canonicity to that, even if, like, you know, you read these kind of comics, you don't really expect that. You kind of expect it to be the writers are just throwing shit at the wall and calling it a day.
Yeah.
But, I mean, all in all, I thought it was a fine enough issue. It wasn't perfect, and it definitely felt very messy, but it had, like, I think the fact that it felt very fan comic-y and amateur, I think, honestly, added to the charm for me, because it just felt like, oh yeah, you know, like, it's like the stuff I would read back in a day, that, you know, these dumb little comics or fan fiction and all that, you know, so even if I don't think it was the greatest thing in the world, I still had, like, some dumb enjoyment out of it, I would say. Oh, right, there's one thing I almost forgot to mention that, like, caught me off guard. There's, in, like, the first issue, when we're in the library, and Twilight's looking through her books to try and remember what's going on. There's just a bunch of books, like, you know, there's one book that just says IDW, because of course you gotta have, like, the publisher cameo in one of the books. And then there's Incident at Santa Mira, Why Apes Will Rule, To Serve Ponies, Herding Cats, and How I Did It? Is Twilight reading O.J. Simpson's book?
Oh.
I know the book is If I Did It, but, like, it was still like, wait a minute, what the fuck? Why does she have that in her library?
Oh yeah, we do also have, in, like, the establishing shot near the start, which has, like, Blues Brothers and such, like you mentioned. It does also have cameos for the writer Katie Cook, as well as the artist Andy Price and his husband.
That's nice. I did find the Nightmare Fluttershy thing. It's from the first issue when Chrysalis is speaking through the crystal ball. I'll post it in DMs, and you can take a look at yourself.
What the fuck?
Yeah, I don't know what the hell they're going for with that. Like, her heart's, like, beating out of her neck.
Sorry, what
and
the
not in her
buck?
chest. Yeah, what the buck? I'm pretty sure I said fuck earlier, it's fine. And, like, her eyes are, like, cylindrical, but, like, her pupils are still jutting out of them anyway. I don't know what the hell is going on in this image. It is fucking horrifying.
Oh.
I just remember, like, flipping the fuck out when I saw that. I was like, what the fuck is that? It was the funniest shit ever, and I'm so glad I could get your reaction live for that. But yes, with that, let's move on to the other arc we'll be covering, which I will not be saying the name of it, because like the previous arc, it will just spoil everything. Issue 5 begins with all of the main 6 having slept poorly due to all of them having nightmares at the same time. Figuring it to just be a coincidence, but still being uncertain, the group decide to have a slumber party at Pinkie Pie's place, only to be given further nightmares of their worst fears being realized. Rarity, so distraught at the idea that a bona fide Mabel from Gravity Falls would one-up her in making a saddlebag for Twilight, is forcibly awoken from her nightmare and pulled away towards the moon. Noting some shadowy smog was seeping into their sleepless streams, the group solicits the service of Celestia and Sluna in order to surmise the scary situation at large. Luna, distraught, realizes that Rarity was pony-napped to the nightmare dreamscape of the moon, explaining that she herself had become Nightmare Moon when the nightmare forces had convinced her to give in to her fear and hatred, and she fears they're trying to do that again with Rarity and take over Ponyville. The group set off, with Celestia and Luna working together to literally lasso the moon closer to, Earth? What's the planet called again? Do we know?
I don't think so.
We're ponies. How do we not know what we live on? Like,
We just talking
there's
about
Earth
Equestria.
ponies. Yeah. There's Earth ponies, but, like, Earth can also just mean ground, so that doesn't necessarily mean that they're on their version of Earth.
I mean, one of the old kingdoms, when Earth ponies separated from Pegasi and unicorns, when all three races went their own way, Earth ponies did try to settle down in their kingdom of Earth.
Yeah, that makes sense. But regardless, they lasso the moon closer so that the main six, Luna and Spike, can make their way towards the Nightmare Castle and save Rarity. The group are quickly ambushed by Nightmare Mist, manifesting further hallucinations of their worst fears being realized, but are able to free themselves one by one through the power of friendship. Luna herself, however, holds doubts as if she deserves this friendship, feeling guilty over everything that happened when she was Nightmare Moon, something that the Nightmare creatures are quick to try taking advantage of. The main five get ready to fight, but are caught off guard by the unveiling of the Nightmare creature's new queen, Nightmare Rarity. The group try and convince Rarity to snap out of it, with Spike trying to use the gem that he had given to her in the show as a memento, but are unsuccessful, with Nightmare Rarity twisting the knife on Luna using her guilt complex against her, before sending the creatures out to fight the group. Spike is thrown far away by one of the Nightmare creatures, and the fight quickly turns into a losing battle, with Luna being made to retreat by the remaining main five to warn Celestia and the others of the impending danger. The main five are sent to a dungeon, and we cut over to Spike, who hatches a plan to disguise himself and save everyone. Making his way to the castle, Spike is taken off guard by Rarity, seemingly back to normal, who professes her love to him and requests that he forget the past and serve her and only her, only for Spike to realize that this is an illusion by Nightmare Rarity, who promptly breaks the gem in front of him and fucks off to terrorize Ponyville. Spike picks up the shattered pieces of the gem and makes his way towards the dungeon the main five are being held captive in, only for Pinkie to free everyone using the key she stole from one of the Nightmare creatures in a one-off joke panel from earlier, again cut for brevity. A said Nightmare creature argues with him that friendship is worthless, but as we all know, friendship is magic. The main five proceed to power up with magical friendship energy, and the creature's fate is left unknown as we cut over to the confrontation between Ponyville and the Nightmare creatures. All of the ponies work together to fend off the creatures, with Luna resolving to fight Nightmare Rarity herself, only to be knocked back and further guilt-tripped on her actions as Nightmare Moon. Though briefly disheartened, Luna is given a pep talk from the various ponies, and is, after being told that everyone deserves a second chance, is motivated to fight once more. Nightmare Rarity scoffs this off, but is taken aback by the displays of friendship displayed before her, especially with the return of Spike and the main five, as well as the Nightmare creature that was acting as jailer for them, freed from his nightmare corruption through the power of friendship, and the group proceed to friendship blast Rarity into being freed herself. The story ends with Luna making her way back to the moon, freed moon creatures in tow, reflecting on the power of love and friendship. Again, 0 to fucking 100 here. We go from, hey, here's the big bad of the second season, to, what if Rarity became evil? Like, what the fuck? It's some insane shit, and I'm honestly all for it. It's like, this is that good shit. This is that good, dumb shit. Like,
yeah.
What the hell?
I thought it was good. I felt like most of it, like, actually stayed relevant and consistent, unlike the first issue's middle part, in which it's kind of just random antics which actually have nothing to do with Chrysalis.
Yeah.
But this all, like, stays on point.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely liked the writing more on this one. It definitely felt more solid, and it still had a lot of, like, characters just mugging you with their personality traits. But it didn't feel as bad as Pinkie Pie pulling out a giant mascot costume of herself, forcing Rainbow Dash into a giant costume of herself, and then revealing she has a giant mascot costume of the changelings as well. Like, it definitely did not feel as ridiculous, I guess, to say.
Yeah. Even Pinkie's random wiggling ended up being a MacGuffin.
How she like randomly decides to wiggle while being restrained by the Nightmare creature, which we now know as to be named Jeremy. Because there's just creatures on the moon now who also got corrupted by the Nightmare realm, one of them is named Jeremy, and then one of them is named Larry. But while corrupted, he keeps insisting that he be named, what was it?
Shadowfright.
Do you remember? Shadowfright, which is incredibly stupid. This is not, like, a thing in the show up to this point, right? That there's just, like, moon creatures and shadow corruption going on?
No, that's never a thing in the show.
Never, okay. Because it's just, like, I was like, the whole thing with Luna is that she just became evil because she was just bitter and hateful towards Celestia for banishing her on there. But now we have this added wrinkle of, okay, but what if, like, weird hate monster symbiote things, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of liked it, even if it definitely felt like a thing they made up and retconned for the story, just because I do love a good main character turns bad through external forces kind of story when handled well. I think the idea of Nightmare Rarity sounds like the biggest fanfiction thing ever, and it is fucking insane, and I'm all for it. Yeah, like I said, I think the art was definitely way better. I think Nightmare Rarity is absolutely gorgeous, honestly.
Yeah.
And that's coming from someone who, Rarity's not even my, like, favorite of the main 6. I just really like the design.
Yeah, I will say that when she dons a helmet as she's invading Ponyville, it's so tight-fitting, it makes her look bold.
I didn't even notice that. That's really good. Just fucking bald Rarity. I did comment when I was writing that it definitely still, like, tacky and heavy-handed, even for My Little Pony, that they were, like, power friendshipping it. Specifically because when they're, like, imprisoned, they're like, hey, like, the power of our friendship is, like, causing us to, like, glow and radiate with the light of love and all that. And I'm like, give me a break. Like, I alluded to it a bit in the recap with how, like, they say it's friendship time and friendship all over Jeremy, but it's, like, it just, like, kind of felt a bit much. Even if it's like, but like, what can you do? You know, these are like small comic. You know, you kind of have to like do a lot with like what little pages you're given, and so they're probably given like, hey, do this in 4 issues. Like I said, I had to just figure the best they could do with that. So it's like I'm not gonna be too harsh on that.
Yeah,
I did think the moon creatures looked kind of stupid. I'll be real.
Oh yeah.
I didn't really care for their designs, honestly. It, like, they tried to be, like, more, like, fantastical and weird-looking because of them being from a different planet, but I was just not super into them, honestly.
Planetoid. The moon is not a planet.
Okay. Yeah, that's just how our podcast is gonna go now, isn't it?
Yeah.
You're just gonna correct me on the most minute of things, even though I made a joke about you being all natural earlier. I did think some of the cameos in this were cute, like how Dr. Hooves was there. Again, I'm an old head. And he was trying to use his sonic screwdriver on the shadow creatures.
Yeah. Also, I just looked it up. The moon is not a planetoid.
After all that, and you're wrong.
Yeah.
That's what you get. That's what you get for trying to correct people. It's just fucking actually me on my own podcast. This is my podcast now. We're not friends anymore. You're just my co-worker.
Sourbrite, I love you.
Oh, I can't stay mad at you.
Yay.
See, we had our own arc. Wasn't that lovely?
Yeah.
I don't have much else I want to add. I just thought it was a really dumb, fun story. It definitely kind of continued the overall vibe of feeling very fanfiction-y, but in a way I found very entertaining. Was there anything else you wanted to add? I know there's one thing you did want to mention, but you haven't yet.
Before we get into that, you mentioned the Dr. Hooves was holding a sonic screwdriver. Not only that, due to the resemblance, he's kind of seen as the 10th Doctor. Meanwhile, we also have the 11th Doctor wearing a pheasant bow tie, the 4th Doctor wearing his famous scarf, and also there's a female Doctor Hooves, which even though doesn't look anything like her, is probably meant to be the 13th Doctor. So we have 4 Doctors in this issue.
Well, it can't be the 14th because she didn't exist yet. We didn't have that yet. This is 2013, remember?
Oh, fuck, you're right.
Because at that point, we would have only had, like, 11 would have still been the newest one.
Right, so yeah.
Like, at most, we would have had a female doctor from a gag skit that Stephen Moffat wrote called The Curse of Fatal Death for a parody of Doctor Who, in which the idea of the Doctor being a woman was meant to be more of just a joke. But, like, outside of that, no, we would have only had 11 as the newest one.
Okay.
But I did notice the fourth one cameo in there as well. I did pick up on that. I thought that was cute.
And speaking of cameos, we also have a cameo, horse famous Mando Pony, who was a famous brony musician for years, like one of the most well known among living Tombstone and such. And also, I was hesitant to even bring this up on the podcast because he's also an alleged groomer.
God damn it. A fucking course. A fucking course. That's what it was.
So yeah, not a good cameo to look back on.
Yeah.
He is running alongside the OC of his wife, Sibsy.
Oh no. I mean, it's cute that they're paying a nod to the fandom. It proves that I was wrong about them just writing this for a paycheck, but also that's very unfortunate.
Yeah. For what it's worth, we never knew for sure. The charges never stuck, but, you know, there was a lot of things. I don't know if I should be going more into
It's... I don't think we need to become a drama podcast.
Yeah.
I think that's good to leave it at there. You know, put in the historicality of it. We don't need to go much more into detail past that. But yeah, I think, unless you have any closing thoughts, I think that'll do it for this debut episode of Let the Horses Cook, IDW edition.
Yeah. I did forget one thing I wanted to talk about in Return of Chrysalis. They don't, win with the power of friendship or anything. It's just Twilight doing, an overpowered magic blast.
And she goes full Avatar mode on her.
Yeah. It's you have her friends cheering her on, but that's not what's giving her power.
Yeah, it's just the stars aligning, quite literally. It's wait, what? Friendship, and also the stars, cosmology, bitch.
Yeah. But at least, Nightmare Rarity gets defeated by friendship.
Yeah. But yes, that'll do it for our inaugural episode of Let the Horses Cook, the most cooked My Little Pony recap podcast. Thank you so much for having me here, or being here, rather, Willow, aka Gympie Dendro.
It was my pleasure.
And to break kayfabe a bit, yes, we will be returning with title pendering. I'm sorry, Vespa. I'm sorry. But we will be returning with title pendering in the near future. A lot of stuff had come up behind the scenes, but we'll return. Thank you for indulging us with our dumb little bit, pun unintended. We had a lot of fun reading these stupid comics, as you can tell, and we had a lot of fun talking about them, and always remember to stay cooking. Good night, every pony.
Wait, are we talking horses?
Dude.